Over the last 100 years, Kaduna has evolved, developed, thrived, seen decline, and endured, withstanding internal rifts and violent clashes that were severe enough to threaten the fabric of its very existence. Since 1999, the state has, with support from development partners and civil society, seen a period of gradual development, and recommendations to build a prosperous state were created and documented. Notwithstanding these efforts, by 2015, poor implementation left the state with discouragingly low measures of performance in sectors such as health and education, based on experiences of residents and documented throughout various national assessments. In the last 3 years, reform efforts led by the executive have gained momentum. There has been a refocus on planning, provision of public services, and responsiveness to citizen priorities. By implementing key reforms in social development, governance, economic development, security, and justice, the state is strengthening the positioning of public sector and delivering improved services to residents of Kaduna. Social development reforms. In health, key reforms were implemented over the last 3 years to improve residents' access to health care at the grassroots level. The primary health care under one roof policy, the Public Health Supply Chain Transformation Project, the provision of reproductive health commodities to women, infrastructure for health, such as solar energy in PHCs, and the establishment of a contributory health insurance scheme for residents.
For the past 4 years, there had been the PHC under one roof law that was signed, and there is currently renovation of the 255 PHCs, and recently there are adverts for recruitment of staff. They've been able to bring out activities that will carry citizens along, especially at the Primary Healthcare Development Agency. They've been the minimum service delivery package. They've been able to launch that, and they've been able to pursue and monitor into this supportive supervision so that service delivery will be everywhere.
For the past 4 years, between 2015 and 2017, there were a lot of health problems and challenges affecting the health system in Kaduna State. One of them was underfunding. The health sector was not funded well. If we look at the budget of the health sector, the percentage of allocation to the health sector was only about 7%. However, in 2017, it was increased to 16.1%, and that was a significant increase in the percentage of allocation of budget to the health sector.
The education sector was reformed to provide the resources to improve learning outcomes for school children. The reforms in education are infrastructure and technology upgrades, the primary school feeding program, the establishment of a quality assurance authority, free basic education for children of school age, the establishment of the school-based management committees, direct funding to schools, and the teacher quality reforms.
Teaching has been depoliticized in Kaduna. So for you to be a teacher, you have to be competent, you have to actually be learned, and you have to be someone who is committed to being a teacher. So the reform in the education sector where teaching is concerned is something that needs to be commended, and is something that we can say is not one that one could underscore. So you see now when you go to Kaduna schools, you see that pedagogical skills has improved. The teachers have been trained on Jolly Phonics, basic sign language, blending of letters. Synthetic methods are used. The child-centered methodology is used, whereby the teacher is working with the child, making the class, the learning environment more fun. So our teachers have actually been trained, and they are enjoying teaching, and the pupils are also enjoying teaching.
Social welfare reforms in the state provide protection to vulnerable groups. The Children Protection and Welfare Law, the Anti-Street Hawking and Begging Law, development and a regulatory framework for orphanages, the Kaduna State Women Empowerment Fund Scheme.
The Kaduna State government has embarked on a number of child protection or social welfare policies and actions. And I think the one that I find most interesting and I'm very happy about is the Child Welfare and Protection Law. This is because it has been a law that we have been pursuing in the civil society and even government to pass since 2004 after the passage of the Child Rights Act at the national level. We've been advocating for the law to be passed, and it suffered a lot of setbacks along the way. But we're happy to say that the law was passed by the middle of this year, and we heard it has been assented to by the government. Now, this law will go a long way in protecting children against abuse and looking into the welfare of the family as a whole. It takes a holistic way of protecting the family and providing support, not just for the child, but also for the family. For the child in particular, we're interested in issues of the education of the child, especially the girl child, and it provides for compulsory education of children. And for girls, we're very happy that it seeks to promote, to protect the girl child against child marriage. And also, in as much as it did not stipulate mandatory minimum age for marriage, it's prohibited child marriage and stated that a child should not be married until she has attained puberty. We know that puberty, there is no set age for puberty. It's different for different people. But we are also aware of the menace of child marriage because it distorts their right to education. They may not complete their education. It means that they may not be able to be gainfully employed if their education is distorted. It also leads to early pregnancy and early childbirth for the girl child. And for some of the young girls who are not lucky, they may have the VVF, that is viscovaginal fistula, that is that uncontrollable urine. And we have found out in some families where they have a survivor of VVF, she's either divorced by the husband. The laws, like I said, they are quite young. I would say they are just newly. The Child Welfare and Protection Law is quite young. It was just passed in 2018. And like I said, the state government, particularly the Ministry of Women Affairs, has already started putting in place a lot of measures to enforce or implement the law. I talked about the establishment of homes. They've already built 3 homes across the state for keeping children or those in need of protection. We've already seen that there's even a special unit that has been set up to deal with issues of sexual assault for young girls and women. And they are located in the specialist hospital. The one that is more functional is the one at the Gomna Awan Specialist Hospital, where they have the sexual assault and referral center. The ones for Kafanchan and Zaria are in the pipeline. They've already trained people who are counseling and giving medical attention to victims or survivors of sexual assault. We also have in the ministry, I've seen that the Ministry of Women Affairs, before they moved to their new location, they set up a creche, encouraging people to take care of children whose mummies are at work, and encouraging other ministries and other parastatals or even the private sector to follow suit. So you begin to see that some measures are being taken to start really implementing some of the laws in the states. I know that they've been in dialogue with some of the people who are engaged in begging. They were in dialogue with them, but it happens once in a while, trying to resolve issues around taking them off the streets and sending them, trying to find out where they came from and sending them there. But when they come back, they are also in dialogue with them because they engage the government from time to time. So I see that if this continues, that the people of Kaduna State would benefit more. But like I said, there needs to be available resources for them to implement those laws and policies, because you cannot do that just with the law alone, but you need resources to to set up some institutions, employ or purchase some facilities that need to be used by the people.
Governance reforms. To build capacity of the civil service and improve the effectiveness of the 3 tiers of government, in the last 3 years, a slew of governance reforms were prioritized by Kaduna State. The adoption of the Treasury Single Account (TSA) policy, a reorientation of public spending, budget adjustment mechanisms, zero-based budgeting (ZBB), development planning, Fiscal Responsibility Law 2015, Tax Codification and Consolidation Law, establishment of State Budget and Planning Commission, establishment of an Economic Intelligence Unit, the Public Service Revitalization and Renewal Program, Local Government Authority Restructuring, the Eyes and Ears Project, Data Revolution Project, State Residence Registration Program, Donor Aid Coordination and Pension Reforms.
The TSA was a really welcomed development concerning the fact that it helped all MDAs to consolidate and put all revenues and expenditure. It helps the government to look at the dashboard and understand what all MDAs are bringing in terms of revenue at the same time. So the TSA was one huge interface that government brought that helped the governance structure in Kaduna State. And this also helped, it took some time because a lot of civil servants didn't understand what the TSA was up until several months of implementation, because they were finding it very new, and that linked up to the issue of their reorientation. They had to get a new orientation on how governance will work henceforth compared to how it used to work before. Kaduna State started ZBB, zero-based budgeting, somewhere around 2015, and the whole concept was to begin to help public servants begin to see how every year was supposed to start from point zero. In terms of practice, I'm not sure Kaduna State had done very well in terms of, but the principle of the ZBB was a very good one, and till date, that's what the state has been implementing. The principle of the ZBB is to say every year you don't do incremental budgets, you have to start and from a clean slate, think of the state and say, what is needed this year? What do I need to do? How do I start this year with what issues? What am I going to implement? What programs am I going to do that would help the state in reaching out to the kind of outcomes that I want to see for that year? So ZBB was a very good thing for the state, especially in terms of the principle. I'm looking forward to where we'll reach in real practice, where the budgets are actually going to be implementing the ZBB going forward.
Economic development reforms. The government of Kaduna has led economic reforms focused on attracting local and foreign investments to develop industries, to create jobs and improve incomes for residents of Kaduna. These reforms are investment promotion reforms and the establishment of Kaduna Investment Promotion Agency, land administration reforms and the establishment of the Kaduna Geographic Information Service, the establishment of the Kaduna Mining Development Company Limited, and the provision of housing funds and infrastructure for economic growth.
If you read the Ease of Doing Business report released by World Bank recently, like I said in October, the states that have actually done a lot of reforms in ease of doing business is actually Kaduna State. You can see the number that Kaduna State have done with, and compared to Lagos, Kano, I think we have Kaduna, Kano, Lagos, and is there another? Yeah, I can't remember the first state that actually done well on reforms that has to do with ease of doing business. And mind you, we've from day one of this process of getting this thing done, all the organized private sector in the state had actually been carried along. Prior to the signing up into law in 2016, the new tax law, the Kaduna State was generating less than 16 billion naira, and now they are clocking 32. And I know the target given to Kaduna Inland Revenue Service this year was to go to over 40. So those are things that we actually, because from day one when those processes began, the organized private sector were involved. I was involved, my office, the other BMOs, because we have a coalition of BMOs in Kaduna State, BMOs, Business Membership Organization, whereby, it's better for us to speak with one voice. Yes, Kaduna Chamber of Commerce had its own voice. NASI, MAN, CITN, ICANN, all of them had their own separate voice. But when we come together to advocate collectively on a single issue, I don't think any responsible government will want to ignore those kind of a voice that is so loud in a particular issue. So we've been so blessed with this administration to be contacted in any issue that has to do with any reforms that have to do with business environment in the state.
Yes, the government has been doing a lot, especially with the coming of KADIPA, which is a one-stop shop for investors. And we've also seen a number of Kaduna Summit Investment, CAD Invest. We've had 2 editions, I believe. And through those platforms, we have seen the government create the enabling environment to attract 1 or 2 investors in the agricultural sector. For example, Vicampro, I think it's an investment worth about $120 million. Then same also with that of Olams, which is about $100 million. Then the Dangote Tomato Company. And we've also had little companies too that have come to invest, but not at the scale of that 3 companies I mentioned.
In the last 3 to 4 years in Kaduna State, the local government restructuring has helped average citizens to see governance in a different light. Hitherto, before now, it used to be history, stories that people hear that they can take part in the governance structure of their state, especially at the local level. But the reforms that has entered the local government in the last 3 years has been very remarkable. You can talk about the issue of the local government development plan. Each local government has developed its plan for the next 3 years. And would say these are the things that, looking at also the kind of resources that they are going to get, they build their strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats to say that this is what we think we can do over a period of time. You also have seen that the issues of budgets, aligning state budgets with the local government, that restructuring of the local government has also helped. Currently now, for the first time in the history of Kaduna State, the state and the local government have signed their budgets in record time before the next fiscal year. And this is a remarkable achievement. And that is the kind of thing that the restructuring we're talking about should be able to give us. Citizens are even more involved in the budgets of their local governments through the community development charter process, which the reform has also imbibed and is helping them. And then you look at the government is monitoring the budgets, and also there's a program they call Lifters that is helping to incentivize local governments that are following procedures and are doing things according to how it is stated in the law. So these are all the kind of reforms that gladdens my heart, especially once we look at the different reforms across the state.
Security and justice. Since 2015, Kaduna state government pursued reforms to ensure the state evolves into a place where residents can live more freely without harm. Reforms in security and justice are the establishment of a peace commission, the review of state laws by the House of Assembly, weekly peace and security meetings, Kaduna State Vigilante Service Law, Kaduna State's Traffic and Environmental Law Enforcement Agency. The world is changing, and Nigeria along with it. In Kaduna, the opportunities afforded by technology, population, and even recession are being exploited. The state is altering the ways the public sector operates, leading the expansion of productive industries and transforming the lives of the residents. Residents and reform actors credit the success of the reform process to political will, competent technical assistance, and increased motivation.
In the last 3 to 4 years in Kaduna State, the local government restructuring has helped average citizens to see governance in a different light. Hitherto, before now, it used to be history, stories that people hear that they can take part in the governance structure of their state, especially at the local level. But the reforms that has entered the local government in the last 3 years has been very remarkable. You can talk about the issue of the local government development plan. Each local government has developed its plan for the next 3 years, and would say these are the things that, looking at also the kind of resources that they are going to get, they build their strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats to say that this is what we think we can do over a period of time. You also have seen that the issues of budgets, aligning state budgets with the local government, that restructuring of the local government has also helped. Currently now, for the first time in the history of Kaduna State, the state and the local government have signed their budgets in record time before the next fiscal year. And this is a remarkable achievement. And that is the kind of thing that the restructuring we're talking about should be able to give us. Citizens are even more involved in the budgets of their local governments through the community development charter process, which the reform has also imbibed and is helping them. And then you look at the government is monitoring the budgets, and also there's a program they call Lifters that is helping to incentivize local governments that are following procedures and are doing things according to how it is stated in the law. So these are all the kind of reforms that gladdens my heart, especially once we look at the different reforms across the state.